Good morning. You are watching DeProgram with Ted Rall and Jamarl Thomas. It is Friday, July 17th, 2026. Thank you for joining us. Filling in for Jamarl Thomas, who has a doctor's appointment this morning, is producer Robbie West. Robbie, thanks for sitting in for JT. This morning, we will be talking about the following things and whatever you guys want to talk about. So if you guys have a question or a comment or anything you want to bring up, please go ahead and put them into the live chat in the 9 to 10 a.m. hour Eastern time, either on YouTube or Rumble, and we will get to them. Priority goes to the paid ones. Okay, so the main topics today are Trump's speech last night. I don't know if you had a chance to see it, Robbie.
I will go let you know right now. I did not. I had more important things to do last night. Me and the one and only John D. Cockefeller were gaming last night. So
Oh,
we were
good.
playing. So
That
we were
is more
playing.
important.
Yeah, so we were playing Vermintide, and for the life of me, I could not tell if we were wasting rats in Jerusalem, Tel Aviv, or Washington D.C. because they all look the same.
Well, rats are rats are rats. Okay, although scientists know. John D. Cockefeller is a scientist, so he might know the difference between various species of rats. Anyway, ICE, of course, is under fire right now for shooting more people who shouldn't be shot. Turns out that the ICE officer who shot a guy from Colombia in Maine earlier this week, the Army veteran, he has been struggling with serious mental health issues since early childhood. We'll be talking about whether ICE is deliberately or willful or neglectfully hiring maniacs. Marco Rubio, Secretary of State, hosted a conference at the U.S. State Department yesterday involving 65 other nations, trying to claim that there is a giant threat of international far left terrorism, which, as a far leftist, I was kind of wondering and hoping, like, hey, maybe the left is getting their shit together and starting to do stuff. Um, Probably not so lucky. Anyway, let's get into the comments that we have so far, and then
There's a
we'll
bunch of
launch right into it. Probably hit the president's speech first. Um, so Alexandria says they make it harder to find this feed than others.
yeah,
Robbie,
YouTube.
what
So,
do you think that is?
well, I know what it is. It's because since John's departure, impressions have gone down because you just had a lot of the John fans who were here for John. And now that he's no longer here, the algorithm's still trying to pick that up. And so what
Mm.
happens if someone sees the thumbnail and then they just keep and then they scroll by without clicking it, then impressions go down. Then YouTube is just like, oh, I'm not going to recommend this to as many people. Even if
Mm.
you have the bell icon clicked, YouTube, it's just a game that YouTube plays, to be honest with you. It's just, it
So
is
it
what it is.
should straighten itself out over time as more people recognize that John's not here anymore.
Yeah, I mean that, or I mean, if you just want to always be notified that we're live, just hop over here to Rumble. The weather's fine, and you'll always be notified.
Okay. That is annoying. Dual Purpose says illegals and others come to this country and have more rights than working natural born citizens. Dual Purpose, seriously, you know that illegal immigration and workers' rights are a huge topic here on the show, especially whenever Robbie's around. So I would love it if you would expand a little bit about on that, because what do you mean they have more rights? I'm not disagreeing with you, but if you can just sort of explain what you mean.
Well, the rights
Um,
is Ted is not have to pay taxes. I mean, they either they steal, they engage in identity theft, they're stealing social security social security numbers, or more
well,
often
they're
than not, they're
stealing
working under the
social
table.
security numbers because that's the only way that they can work. They need a social security number in order to work. I mean, it's not hurting anyone because they're paying taxes on those social security numbers. So weirdly, people end up getting like more social security in their social security than they earned because some illegal immigrant is paying into the system.
But a lot of them work under the table. Is our like the
Yeah.
migrants that lost the farm job to. They were
Mhm.
they were working under the table. So they didn't have to pay income tax like I did. They have to pay Medicare or Social
Yeah,
Security
those
tax
people
like
don't
I
pay.
did.
They don't pay taxes, but
And
I mean, they're not paying taxes, but okay. I mean,
so I mean
yeah,
that's a benefit. You know,
it
I'm
is a
not,
benefit. Yeah, I'm not gonna. I was gonna say, but I mean, no, it is a benefit. It is. There's no question. But anyway, if there's anything else, please let us know. Dual purpose. Another comments from dual purpose. Trump presents fake news full of lies and deception, knowing the dutiful stenographer media present it unblemished. Well, to some extent. We'll talk about that too. Several of the networks refused to carry the speech last night. We can talk about that. He says Kiriakou is right that evangelical Americans are a sickness in our society. Robbie, you might have thoughts about that.
I agree. I mean,
Oh, okay.
I'm a Baptist.
Right.
And the vast majority of Baptists are Zios, because they are fully wrapped into the Schofield dispensational BS that comes right out of the footnotes of the Schofield Darby Bibles. And it is a sickness because it trains evangelical Christians to put the needs and interests of another people and another country above your own. And it is a sickness. And if you point that out, then a lot of them look at you like you're a heretic. It's like, how dare you come out against God's chosen people? It's like, dude, they're antichrist by definition. That's why they're Jewish. They reject the Messiah. The mental gymnastics that they go through is astounding, just because they don't read the Bible. They don't say themselves approved.
Okay, Manchild, thanks for the $2 first donation of the day, much appreciated. Okay, is there everyone can stop tilting at windmills for a couple of months? No, Manchild, there is no way, and focus all their attention and rage toward Trump legitimately threatening election interference. Well, that brings us up to this president's speech last night, which I did watch. I didn't think I was going to, but I did. Okay, so we should just get to that, right? So, Robbie, here's what happened. Basically, first of all, before the president delivers a speech, if he wants it to be carried by the major networks and have them preempt their prime time, he has to submit the text. I guess he's not using his usual teleprompter dude, because that guy is just got fired for placing illegal bets on things that Trump would say in his speeches, because he had the text early. But anyway, he gave the speech last night. He had to submit it to the various networks. At least 2 or 3 decided they weren't going to carry it. Now, I know that on the right they're viewing that as anti-Trump bias, and that may have played a role, but also the news judgment that goes into these things for producers and for network execs is this newsworthy? Is anything of value being communicated to the American people here? It can be political, but it's got to be notable too. And in this case, I think they were right to not cover it because there was nothing really going on. There was basically he said that they were going to drop a bunch of new documents that proved that China was trying to interfere with our elections. There were no new documents, and there were some new documents, I should say, but they just said things that were already in the public domain and well known. Everything that he said was basically misleading. There's no evidence yet that's ever been presented that any American elections votes have actually been hacked and changed. And perhaps for me, the most bizarre aspect of this whole rant and his push to try to get the Save America Act passed through the Senate. Well, there's 2 bizarre aspects, but he said, he kept focusing on the elections are all fucked up. They're being hacked. They're vulnerable. You can't trust anything that comes out of them. But he focused only on 2020, which of course he lost, but he doesn't have much to say about 2016 or 2024, which of course he won. And it's kind of like, well, if that's the case, is there anything unique about 2020 and whatever election interference like Russia or China, whoever allegedly would have been done? He has nothing, neither he nor anyone in his administration has anything else to say. And then, Robbie, the thing that's really bizarre to me is that a big part of the reason he can't get some of his own Republican senators to pass it through a Republican-dominated Senate is that this bill is really bad for Republicans. If it passed, Democrats will win more elections than Republicans. And I can get into the reasons why. But it's basically the Save the Democratic Party Act. It's complete GOP political suicide for the Republicans because of the way it works and the way the demographics of the country. Um, the whole thing is, it was just a bizarre exercise. And it was just, one lie after another, a lot of winging it, like we're doing really well, America is back, but at the same time, America's got to get its shit straight. I'm like, but you're the president. You're in charge of getting our shit straight. Uh, the whole thing was like, I mean, honestly, I came out of it saying, the president of the United States is a maniac. We had 4 years of having a senile old coot who was a different kind of maniac. And now we're well into 4 years, 6 years, depending on how you want to count, of, a madman. But I mean, it kind of amounts to the same thing.
Yeah, well, it is, and there's a lot there. And let's start with the teleprompter guy first. First of all, I don't think he should have been fired. I don't think he did anything wrong. And here's why I'm saying this: if people in Congress are able to engage in insider trading, which they do legally all the time.
True. Well, it's illegal, but they do it basically legally. Yeah.
Well, I mean, if it's illegal, but nothing happens to you, it's legal by it. It's like your argument about the border. Sure, the law says you can't come across, but if Joe Biden says, come on over, the water's fine, here's a phone, then de facto it's not illegal.
Right.
It's the same thing. So this guy, instead of making millions off of Raytheon and the stock market, it's like, okay, I'm going to play some bets. And here's the thing. If you consistently see this guy's always right.
$100,000 is what he's alleged to have made.
Yeah. God, no, talk about that's just getting fired over such a small amount. This is ridiculous, especially with a job like that.
He's actually suspended without pay, is my understanding. I don't think he's actually been fired.
Well,
he might come back.
Well, let's hope that he does, because if he does, if he keeps his job, then we just all follow with how it is that he bets. It's kind of like the Nancy Pelosi stock tracker. You just go with what this dude has, and you just ride that wave. I mean, seriously. As far as Trump goes, about election interference, first of all, the Constitution is incredibly clear. These states, not the federal government, are in charge of elections in this country. That's why they're states, not provinces. Mm-hmm. They are supposed to be sovereign, independent states. Emphasis on supposed to be. Maybe it's time for them to remember they actually have power. Get some governors that have got these things called balls, step to D.C. That would be nice for a change. And lastly, it's not the first it's the Russians, now it's the Chinese, when everybody knows it's the Haitians and the Somalis that have voting blocks in places like Minneapolis. So come on.
If you're going Robbie, to have the Haitians are too busy eating your cats and dogs.
Well, that's what I was about to say. I mean, as an animal lover, Ted, you should be you should be pushing back. You should be Team Robbie on this.
Oh, if anybody comes after Clovis, and they view him as a tasty, fillet. Oh, I'm borrowing your guns. I'm coming after him.
But what about Clovis's kin?
Well, Clovis's kin are of value also.
But they don't have a lobby the way that he has the Ted Rall lobby sewed up. And he has the DeProgram staff. No, he has the DeProgram ecosystem.
Imprimatur. Yeah, and soon there's going to be merch.
Yeah, it's going to be awesome. No, we need to have come up with a pack similar to APAC, but Clovis.
Well, there is PETA, but PETA's for all cats, so it's not really quite the same thing.
Yeah, no. Well, it's obvious that not all cats are created equally.
No, not all cats are created equal. Clovis is superior. He is the Lord of cats.
No. But when it comes to Trump, though, honestly, last night, one of the reasons I didn't watch it is because there's just going to be a bunch of lies. It's going to be deflection. Trump's second term has been a colossal failure in every way, shape, and form. And he's trying to deflect. He's trying to tell the whole world, it's not my fault. The job is too big for me. Well, if it's too big for you, you need to resign and step aside for someone that can actually handle the job.
Now, here's the thing, right? So, first of all, I mean, what do you think this is about? I mean, you're from the right. I mean, you voted for Trump the first time.
I did.
I mean, why do you? We know that the polls show that neither Democrats nor Republicans nor independents care about election fraud or alleged election fraud or illegal immigrants voting as a top priority in their life. I mean, to the extent that anybody cares about it, it comes up when conversations like this happen. And we can talk about it because when the president of the United States and the commander in chief of the world's biggest military has something to say, that makes it news and it makes it worth addressing. But it's like, but it's not an issue that voters care about. Voters, first and foremost, they always care about bread and butter issues. Right now, the affordability crisis, whatever you want to call it, right? It's this toxic combination of jobs are few and hard to come by and fragile. And people who have good jobs are worried about losing them. Prices are soaring. Prices already went way up, but salaries never followed suit. So even to the extent that inflation has settled down, prices are still going up, albeit at a slower rate. The people just aren't able to afford health care. They're not able to pay off their student loans. Young people can't buy their first house or their first car. That's why cars are the average American currently has a 14-year or 15-year-old car. That's a serious problem. It means that the car industry is not moving units because cars are too fucking expensive for Americans to be able to afford. These are what people care about. And there's a lot of things the government could do to address these issues directly, but they're not doing it. Why is the president talking about shit that we don't care about instead of shit that we do care about?
Because he has no interest in fixing the stuff that we care about. That's why. Because if he starts addressing the issues that the American people actually care about, then that's directly attacking the pillars of both political parties, which I make the argument they're not even separate. But that's how you're asking, how you're talking about, no, this voting bill would be a boon to Democrats. It's because there's not enough difference between the two parties for the Republicans to care. What changes? The answer is absolutely nothing. If you want to control bread and butter issues, there's a couple of things that you have to address right away. First of all is wages. How do you get wages to go up? You get wages to go up by making work more scarce. That's why
that's one way. Yeah, that's an important way.
Well, feudalism collapsed because of the Black Death. The peasants, for the first time in history, actually were able to dictate terms because work was scarce to the nobility, and it broke the back of the nobility.
Yeah, workers were scarce.
Yeah, exactly. And so as long as you have mass migration or immigration, legal or illegal, otherwise, wages are going to continue to be depressed. And the left and the right have both done this a masterful job. If you point that out, you're immediately called a bigot. Well, you can call me whatever you want, but the fact is that the purchasing power of every single dollar in circulation continues to decrease for two reasons. One, there's too many workers for the jobs that are available, especially the automation that's coming out. Second, the government is spending too much money, creating too much debt, making it where they have to inflate the money supply, destroying the purchasing power of every dollar in circulation. That's a bread and butter issue.
Well, also, I won't disagree with any of those. I'm going to also add that labor unions have been radically suppressed, and so it's really hard for the corporations. They collude and they basically have their cartels, and they suppress and they own their pet politicians. But labor can't do that. They're being, only like 6% of American workers belong to a union. That's intentional. Unions were crushed. And so in labor management relations, the balance has been tipped. There's a lot of different things going on all at the same time. Let's do a few comments. Guillotine for anyone who crosses Clovis. Correct, Razzmatazz. Alexander Berg has a good suggestion. Robbie should have a mention in the description. From now on, when he fills in, certainly that'll happen. Today, I didn't find out until, I did find out. I should have known, but I didn't hear that JT wasn't going to be in this morning until right before we went on air. I was preparing DMZ, which is by the way, DMZ is at 11 a.m. And if you follow editorial cartooning, Pat Oliphant, one of the most important political cartoonists of the 20th and 21st centuries, just died at the age of 90. So we'll be talking about his legacy with cartoonist Mike Thompson from Wisconsin.
How many cartoonists are there left, Ted? How many people are there?
Still working or alive?
Yeah. Still working.
About full time as real cartoonist is about 11.
That's a tragedy.
There's more working in Tehran than there are working in the United States. When I got into it, there were close to 1,000. It's intentional. I mean, all these newspapers are talking about Pat Oliphant and how important he was and how great he was. These are all newspapers that don't hire any cartoonists, and if they did, and the few that do hire cartoonists would never hire someone like controversial the way Oliphant was. So I mean, they're so ridiculous. Um, let's see. Uh, and then Marake says, "How about we create Paw Pack for Clovis? I like it for cats."
I do
Um,
like it.
okay, maybe Blue Funk. She says, "Guys, the Black Death removed workers by 30 to 60%. That's true, but AI has the capacity to replace like 90% of jobs. Kicking immigrants out is a drop in the bucket. It doesn't address the main issue, AI. And by the way, thanks for the dollar." I think it's honestly, it is like that Zhou Enlai quote about the French Revolution. I think it's too early to tell. AI certainly has that potential, but it could also, in many ways, create more jobs too. I think, but I mean, I take the broad
No,
point. I don't know.
no,
Uh,
we just don't know. And no, and to her point, and I'm going to agree with her on this. If there is the potential, if Americans are already underemployed, which they are,
mhm.
and if AI could further reduce, put more downward pressure on employment and wages, then the last thing that you want to do is allow even one more person in until you can answer that question.
I agree with that. I mean, yeah, it doesn't. P.W. Walker, we can't fix anything until monopolies and cartels are brought to heel. But elected officials use their positions in government now as an application for no show, no work jobs when they leave office. That's true. The
Yeah.
revolving door between business and government and Capitol Hill is out of control. I think it should be illegal to work, like, if, let's say, in a whole variety of jobs, even vaguely related to what you did. Like if you worked, I don't know, if you worked at the Federal Communications Commission, you shouldn't be able to go work for a media company for at least like 10 years after you leave government. Otherwise, they know they're not hiring you, they're hiring your Rolodex and your ability to call your former colleagues and get things and grease the skids for them.
Yeah, they want this. They want your phone. That's all
That's
they want.
That's totally right. They want your yeah, they want your contacts. Um, so okay, so I just want one also. I did want to before we move on. Just I wanted to briefly state something a statistic that I found that I heard that was amazing. So apparently, about 0.4% of voter register people who are registered voters are not authorized to vote for various reasons. They're either illegal immigrants or they're felons or whatever. 0.4% registered to vote, but
Right.
only a tiny fraction of those people actually ever vote. They're in the rolls due to administrative errors. There's automated, there's places like, for example, you go get your driver's license and and they register you when you click a box automatically. But let's say there's states where an undocumented worker or a green card holder who's not eligible to vote gets gets a legit driver's license and they're registered to vote, but they just never show up. That's the vast majority of cases. And in terms of the president said, "Oh well, we'll deport you if you are an illegal immigrant and you vote intentionally," and I'm like, I'm all for that. I mean, and the thing is, immigrants know that. So who the fuck is going to vote on purpose, knowingly, illegally, for one vote in an election where one vote does not make a difference? I don't care what they say. They say one vote can make a difference. No, it can't because it never has. So it's like, why would anyone risk deportation?
Well, more to the point is why is Trump coming out and he's actually being honest for a change, saying that he has no problem with people being here illegally. He just doesn't want illegals to vote. That's the bigger issue. The right thing to say, Mr. President, would be if you are here illegally, you are going to be sent home. You are going to be deported. You are going to go back to the place from which you were spawned. It doesn't matter if you vote or not. The problem is that Trump has flip flopped on this issue too. he now says he has no problem with illegal immigrants. He says he has no. He wants to
Yeah,
have.
he imports them. He imports them to work for his own for the Trump organization.
Yeah, I
Um,
mean, no, the H-1B visas are more destructive than illegal immigration, and he supports both of these things.
Yeah, I mean, let's like, what's the fiction of the H-1B visa? The fiction is, oh, it's 1944, and with this we can get an Albert Einstein to come and build us a super weapon that can defeat Nazi Germany, and we don't have, our Oppenheimer is not quite quick enough. We got to have that Einstein guy come over and help out. But that's not the reality of the H-1B visa program at all. It's code monkeys. It's people who we have lots of people here who are underemployed and unemployed, especially older workers, and companies just don't want to. They just don't want to train anyone. By the way, just a little bit of housekeeping. Thanks everyone for joining us. Just if you're just joining us, for people who were not here at the top of the hour, Jamarl's out today. He'll be back Monday. He had a doctor's appointment. It's nothing serious. He's doing fine. Robbie's just filling in. And TMI coming up at 10. DMZ America will be talking about the death of editorial cartoonist Pat Oliphant at 11 a.m. Eastern Time. That's in about an hour and a half. Okay, so let's bail on this. We'll do a few more comments and then we'll move on to the next topic here. Thanks to PW Walker for the donation. We can't fix anything until monopolies and cartels are brought to heel. But elected officials use their positions in government now as an app. Oh, yeah, I already talked about this. Yep. Sorry.
No, you're good.
Brother Anselm, thanks for the Canadian $2.79. Pugs and Bubs, thanks for the $9.99. I work in finance, and when a banker leaves, they have to go on gardening leave, specifically so their knowledge doesn't transfer to the new company. I remember that. We should have something like that for government jobs.
We should.
I like it. Yeah, we absolutely should. Of course, you have to get people to, you have to get the very entities to who are abusing the system to change it, which is why things don't change. Okay, so let's talk about this ICE guy. So this ICE, David Bruyette, is apparently the shooter who blew away this guy in Maine. There's a lot of questions about whether this was a justified shooting or not. It doesn't look like it. It looks like another, maniac ICE guys who are basically, have itchy figures and, they're roided up and they're driving around and fucking around and terrorizing people, Americans in their own communities. Anyway, his ex-wife came out and she's been giving interviews all over the place saying that this guy never should have been given a badge and a gun, that he beat the shit. They blew her off because they were going through a divorce and they thought, oh, she's just a disgruntled, pissed off ex-wife. And so, I mean, several questions here. First of all, I mean, it's a two-parter. Do you think that, Robbie, that they actually conduct background checks? And if they did and they found something like this, do you think they would care or might even view, a history of violence as a positive? I mean, it's pretty clear that this mass deportation drive, which basically was initiated under the late great Christy Nome, it's meant to be a super machismo terrorizing organization. That's, professionalism isn't the point. It's about terrorism. I mean, if it was about professionalism, they'd have IDs, they would dress more appropriately, they'd dress more like FBI guys. They certainly wouldn't be masked up. They wouldn't be driving around in unmarked cars. They'd have marked vehicles. They would be following the laws. They would be, they would be carefully adhering to constitutional norms. Instead, they storm in and they're trying to scare the shit out of everyone, including American citizens. It's, do you think this is it's a feature, not a bug, or, what's going on here?
It's hard to say because I was going through looking for any court cases from where this guy's ex-wife took him to court for domestic violence, for domestic abuse. I can't find any. An accusation is not the same as calling the police, getting a restraining order filed, say this guy beat the ever living hell out of me, threw my daughter through a glass table. He needs to be put in jail. I'm not saying the report doesn't exist. I am saying I cannot find any evidence whatsoever that she actually contacted the police and went through the legal system for this. The
I
United States is not Afghanistan.
I heard her interviewed, and she says that she was trauma bonded to him, and that she did not file complaints with the police except when he beat up their daughter. The police came, but chose not to charge him at the time for some reason. I can't imagine why. I
It doesn't
mean,
make any sense. I mean,
it makes no sense at all.
if you go through a glass table, guess what's going to be around?
Child
A bunch
Protective
of broken
Services
glass.
and the cops are gonna come around, right? I mean,
And to answer your question about is this a feature or a bug, I think this is bullshit. And here's why: background checks do not matter if the crime is never reported.
well, that's true.
That's the whole issue. So if you're married to a monster, then it is incumbent on you, Mr. and Miss Citizen, to go through the legal process, contact the police, contact law enforcement, go through the system, and let the entire freaking country know, hey, this dude is a monster, whether it's a man or a woman.
Mhm.
And if you don't do that, then you don't. Then you, if he really is a monster, then she is every bit as guilty as he is, because it was incumbent on her to warn people about who she was married to, who she had a kid with, who was abusing her children, and she chose not to. So
You're
that
right. I mean, I mean, that is true. I mean, obviously, we know why women, but not actually, men are often abused by women as well.
well,
Nearly almost as,
men statistically a lot less likely to report on their wife who's
yeah.
abusing them.
Oh, for sure. I mean, you're
And it
not
works
going to
two
be
ways. I mean, this is not a gender issue.
the
If you
number of the number of beds at men's shelters for abused men is in the United States is a big donut. It's zero. So yeah, if your wife just throws stabs you or whatever, they're going to laugh at you down at the police precinct.
And
But
to answer your question, that's my answer. Is that background checks
yeah, the
only
only thing
work.
they would have found probably the arrest. I mean, the
Of
not the
course,
arrest, the detention, the police report about the daughter. That
a,
they would have
res-
found, and
a,
that's
restra-
pretty
a
recent. It's from
restraining order
2022.
a restraining order by itself would have been enough,
She had a restraining order against him,
but not for that.
but she had a restraining order against him for domestic violence.
Yeah, that's true. But I mean, that's the start of the process, though. I mean, you have to actually go to court and say, "Hey,
Yeah.
this is what this person did." No, Ted,
Yeah.
I can accuse you of anything.
Yep.
You can accuse me of anything.
Yep. Yep. No, I mean,
I can accuse Clovis of anything.
no. Clovis is he is immune from prosecution, as you know. He's as an illegal immigrant from Russia. He has special privileges. Um, but yeah, no, I mean, no, look, I take your point, but like I did say, there is a trail. I mean, if they'd investigated him at all, if they'd gone to the effort that, like, say, the FBI goes to investigate people who apply to become naturalized U.S. citizens, they would have learned about this guy. They didn't go that far. They didn't go and talk to the neighbors or people who knew him. They clearly didn't do that. Or if they did, they would have found out. And I guess my question is, do you think it's possible that they heard some of these red flags and they were like, well, he's spicy. We're looking for mean people anyway.
Well, I mean, probably what happened. And listen, if I was a hiring manager, this is what I would do. I would go through. Okay, I see this accusation from the ex-wife. Divorces usually are not pleasant by definition. So I'm looking at his arm. I'm looking at his military record. Okay, they have a history of insubordination. Uh, was he at least a competent soldier? Was able to do all these things? If you're checking all those boxes in the military, say, show up on time. My uniform looks good. I'm not
Honorably
making problems,
discharged.
honorably discharged, and then have the accusation by an ex-wife who, by the way, could not muster the mental fortitude to take him to court.
Well, she did go to court to get the restraining order.
That's not enough, Ted.
She didn't
Listen,
charge. You're saying she didn't have him charged. She didn't
if
pursue charges. Yeah.
for example,
As
if
you know, and look, I know that that's really common. And I mean, look, years and years ago in the 80s, when I drove a taxi in New York, it was the first time I came across something like this. There was a guy beating up his partner right on 79th Street and First Avenue, broad daylight, nice neighborhood. I stopped, and people were just gawking and not doing anything. But I don't know, they were scared, whatever. I had a tire iron, so I took care of it. And the police were very pleased. And they said, well, it's a good thing you did that. And I was very surprised. And I said, why? And they said, well, because nothing's going to happen. She will not pursue charges. They, meaning victims of domestic violence, never, ever do. And in fact, I sat there and waited, and she's like, I love him. I'm going to go home with him. And she's all crying. And that's true. I mean, it's very rare. And you can see why you wouldn't, right? I mean, you're a broken person, and it's very, very hard to leave someone like that.
I mean,
Not to mention, you might be scared that like charging them means they're going to get even more angry and going to come after you more.
I mean, this is one of those problems that our society needs to come to grip with, and it's not a political issue; it's a social one.
Yeah, it is.
If we are going to protect the idea of a presumption of innocence, which I think is second only to free speech in its importance,
Agreed.
then accusation from a spurned lover or from somebody else can never be enough in and of itself to destroy someone's life.
Well, I mean, you mean it's just an empty accusation where you're not willing to go through the legal process.
That's my point. Yeah, because if you're presumed innocent, then that means
I hear you. This is like the
incumbent.
Me Too stuff. Yeah.
It's incumbent on the accuser and the state to deprive me of my liberty, to deprive me of the ability to make a livelihood, to destroy my good name, to destroy my reputation. If the state is going to do this, then it must go through the legal process, and the accuser is not willing to do so. I'm sorry, Mr. or Mrs. America, you don't have the right to complain.
Right. No, I hear you. Okay, so we have some more comments here. Crown Heights Brainiac. Wow, thanks so much for the $19.99. Hey, Ted and Robbie, what are your thoughts on Trump being accused of Russiagate, only then to cry Chinagate simply because we can't compete? It's not China, it's the economy. America compete if we invested here.
No, but they're not going to invest here. And that's what it is. It's just Trump is a weak leader, and he's lying, and he has made his bed with the people that he originally ran to fight, and he's decided it's better to join them than to fight them. That's what this is. He is a weak, pathetic excuse of a leader, and he should resign. He should go to bed, and he should go golf for the rest of his days.
The China thing is weak. When you scratch the surface, what the details are that he is alleging. It boils down to China is collecting voter registration data. And what they mean by that is literally the fact that many states, I should say, they literally post voter registration data on their state websites of the state Secretary of State. So literally what they're saying is that China Googles and downloads these things and keeps them. And also the parties, they can buy these voter registration rolls in other states. That's why you get calls from political campaigns during election campaigns. And say, hey, please vote for Sally Johnson. That's because they bought your voter roll. That's all public information. So he's accusing China of gathering public information, which, of course, obviously, China's interested in who are Americans, and they maintain databases because information is power. But there's no cause for concern, really.
Israel does it too.
So what?
So if it's wrong for China to do it, but okay for Israel to do it, that's racist. I mean, honestly, that is racist.
Well,
because then you're saying that the squinty-eyed yellow person over there with black hair, that person's going to hurt you.
It's the yellow menace.
Whereas the white-headed the white guy with red hair is over there killing brown people in Palestine as your friend.
True. Hey, we have an ad. I'm going to go ahead
Do it.
and do it. Okay. Why is this not going? Okay, there we go.
There it goes.
Access Med, powered by Trinova Health, is a revolutionary telehealth service that offers fast, free online evaluations and free home delivery of customized, compounded medications, offering custom weight loss support, ivermectin therapy, hair restoration, I could use that, cosmetic rejuvenation, custom ED treatments, no comments on that, and more. You can complete your visit in less than 10 minutes, and there's no subscriptions or recurring fees ever. We've made getting started easier than ever. Simply follow the link, choose the product or treatment you're interested in, then complete a quick online evaluation. Within days, your custom meds will arrive to your door. Mention Rumble in the coupon code and get 10% off your first treatment. And
Yeah.
that's it.
Yeah.
That's that.
Annie over on Rumble says, "Excuse me, Robbie. Israel's our greatest ally. Did you know?" Yeah, I've heard that, and my reply is "fuck Israel" all the way to Sunday.
Well, you have to understand that if it wasn't for Israel supporting us in the American Revolution, we'd all still be speaking English.
It's terrible.
So, okay. The Justice Q2X. Thank you for your comment. The policy shift has been warmly received by Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, who publicly congratulated De La Espriella on social media following his narrow June 2026 runoff election victory. I don't know what this is relating to, but all right. Mr. A. Lee says, my ex has tried to stab me twice. Well, I hope you're not around to be stabbed a third time. Harry Balsack also had a buddy whose wife would hurt herself and blame it on him. I know it's true because I also knew her former boyfriend. She was nuts.
So I'm saying, I mean,
that shit can happen. It's true.
I mean, that's and listen, I get it. You can't save every puppy. I get it, and that there are going to be people who are going to fall through the cracks, and there are going to be people who get hurt, especially people who, for whatever reason, are just refuse to go through the process, and they're getting traumatized by the person that they live with. I get it. I understand. But due process is too important of a thing to sacrifice for the minority.
Yeah, it's one of the things that I hate about like what happened under Obama, and it's continued even under Trump to some extent, is those Title IX trials at American colleges and universities, where you don't have the right, if you're accused of, say, sexual misconduct, as a college student, you don't have a right to mount a defense. You can't cross question the person or confront the person who's accusing you. You're literally considered guilty until proven innocent, and probably you will be.
Well, red flag laws are the biggest example of this. Again, all it takes is an accusation.
Yeah, fuck a red flag. Red flag law is bullshit. I mean, because it's like, who's going to determine the red flag?
Well, that's just the whole thing, because you get the accusation, the cops show up to your house. Keep in mind, you have not been charged with a crime, much less gone through due process. Mm-hmm. The police then come in, they take your firearms. This is a constitutionally protected right under the American Constitution. You can't have them for a year till you go to trial and prove to the judge that you are not crazy, which I don't know how you disprove a negative. And then lastly, for insult to injury, you have to pay for the storage fees.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, well, there's a case going on right now here in the New York area. I think it's in Connecticut, where a girl told her guidance counselor in public school that she was depressed. She did not say she intended to harm herself. The school asked her, "Are there guns at home?" And she said there were. The authorities came to her parents' house, asked about the guns. The guns were found to be locked in an appropriate safe in a code, along with all the ammunition. The girl did not have access to the safe nor to the code. And nevertheless, they took the guns out of the safe, and they harangued and harassed this family. They sued, and they're trying to get their guns back. It's been now well over a year. They still don't have their guns back. They took away their license to carry guns, and so they can't even buy new ones. And there was no. It's obviously the nanny state gone wild, and they're totally ignoring the Second Amendment. I mean, they're just like, never mind that it's a sacred constitutional right. I
Not
mean,
just the Fourth Amendment, not just the second, but the fourth.
right,
I mean,
that's true. Unreasonable search and seizure. Yeah,
so I mean,
yeah.
people need to wake up.
Thank you so much for the 20 NOKs. What do you think those are?
I have no idea.
No,
I
I
don't know
think
what
those
it
are. Oh,
is.
I think those are Norwegian krona. Thank you very much for those. A token from support from Alexanderberg. Much appreciated. Also, thank you to Viteris for gifting a subscription to the show. That's over on Rumble. Much appreciated as well. Okay, so just a reminder, we have 13 minutes left, one major topic left. We are going to be doing TMI at 10 and at 11 a.m. We're going to do DMZ America with Scott Stantis. Mike Thompson's joining the show. We'll be talking about Pat Oliphant, the deceased, very important cartoonist. Okay, so Marco Rubio invited 65 countries. He invited more. They didn't show up because they didn't think it was legit. But 65 countries sent representatives to the State Department yesterday. And basically, he gave this long speech about the rise of the resurgence of far left political terrorism, like the Antifa movement. Now, the thing is, the administration argued that 65% or 63%, depending on which source you follow, of all terrorism in the United States is carried out by far left organizations, many with international ties. So there's a lot to unspool here. First of all, when pressed on this, because most counterterrorism experts say that actually the vast majority of terrorism that happens in the U.S. is carried out by radical Islamists or far right people. They said, domestic terror is mainly a right wing thing. So the administration said, well, we're referring specifically to the year, I shit you not, 1972 to 1973, when Ted Rall, currently 62, about to turn 63 next month, was 9 years old. Okay, this was when Vietnam was still going on, when we still had a draft, when you could buy gas for a quarter a gallon, when you could smoke in a hospital room.
You could buy M1 Garands at Kmart for $20. I looked it up.
It's like, where you could get a car for $6,000. It's just like, it's ridiculous. 1972, like, what the fuck is wrong with you? So they're just making this. I mean, before the show, when we went on, I was saying it's Orwellian, right? But in Orwell, in 1984, the government bombs their own people because they're trying to convince them that they're at war to keep them oppressed. But okay, in this case, when you're like, okay, you should at least have false flag attacks and blow up some Americans to put on a good show if you're going to claim that they're being victimized by far left terrorists. But literally, it's nothing. It's like,
there's nothing there.
There ain't nothing there. And so, a lot of countries refused to send their counterterrorism attaches to the United States because they said, well, we looked into it, and our assessment is that most political terrorism takes place is from the far right, or more likely, radical Islamists. So, I mean, it's like, I was like, the far left isn't organized enough to fucking carry out acts of terror. And also, there's no international Antifa organization. Left wingers can't even fucking get together, on a weekend to hold a peace protest. They can't do shit. They're not doing. There's no organization whatsoever. I mean, DSA is about as close as we get, and they're not far left by any standard. So, I mean, help me, Robbie. Help me. I'm losing my mind.
I can't help you because there's nothing to help you with. I mean, it doesn't exist. Listen, if we had a left in this country, y'all would be depending on a righty to come out talking about workers' rights. There is no left.
Right.
I mean,
workers' rights are at the center of any far left movement.
Yeah, and think about what I just said. I am to the right of Donald J. Trump on this stuff. And there's no one on the left that's come out and said, no, Robbie's right. Maybe we need another Cesar Chavez.
Well, hopefully one who's not as ass grabby.
Well, I don't mind if you're ass grabby if you're going out and putting up the good fight where it matters. Listen, if you want some hot Latina mama and she's willing, I have no problem with that, like at all.
Well, if she's willing is the key point.
Well,
Apparently,
that goes
they weren't willing.
well. We don't know that. That goes back to the whole accusation thing, right?
They claim they weren't willing.
Claim I tell you that you're a raging homosexual. Yeah, and
Mm-hmm.
an
People wouldn't be
accusation
the
is not
first.
enough. An
Yeah.
accusation is not enough.
No,
Robbie,
look.
someone could say, Robbie, you are a right wing neo-Nazi affiliated with Oath Keepers. People can make that accusation.
But they can't.
It's not
back it
true.
up. Yeah, if you can't back it up.
I mean, that's the whole point.
Yeah. No, it's crazy. I just I can't even. I mean, so what do you think this is really? I mean, I'll tell you what I think this is about. So, America has really, really harsh laws against something called like material support for terrorist groups. So, if the State Department officially designates an organization to be a terrorist group, like let's say, which they've done for like groups like Hezbollah or Hamas, and then they charge you with providing material support, that's a felony that can send you away to prison for a long time. If you're a naturalized citizen or a green card holder, you can be deported based on that after you serve a lengthy prison term. And the question is, what is material support for terror? Material support to me would be like, well, you provided guns or explosives, or you provided you turned your house into a safe house to hide a 9/11 hijacker on 9/10. That's material support for terrorism. But the government goes a lot further than that, and they've even made the argument that oral support for, and I don't mean oral like giving them terrorists a blowjob. I mean like oral, like literally just saying that expressing sympathy for an ideology that is associated with a State Department designated terrorist organization is enough to be charged with material support for terrorism. That's one of the things that they were going after Khalid from Columbia University, Mahmoud Khalil. Khalil.
Well, when I worked at the hospital, one of the things they were after me for is because I've said before, and I'll say it again, I do not believe that Hamas is a terrorist organization. It is a resistance organization.
Agreed.
They are resisting an occupation. Well, I just became a terrorist under that definition because I'm expressing oral support, not a blowjob, but using my words for Hamas because they are resisting an occupation against a genocidal neighbor.
Right, that's correct. Yeah, that is what they're doing, and yeah, I mean, but the point is that because they've been designated, they have this State Department designation. So I think that what this is really about is broadening the definition of basically what is a terrorist group to anything that's like basically vaguely anti-government, anti-Trump, so that anybody who speaks up against the government or the president is going to be can be charged and imprisoned. I really think it's setting that stage. That's the point here. And since they're going after no one. It reminds me a lot of the RICO statutes, which we as kids learned, like, well, these were developed to go after the mafia. But obviously, as we saw with Fonnie Willis down in Fulton County, Georgia, you can broaden that. It's not just the mafia. It's like anything that's basically people allegedly, quote unquote, conspiring with each other can be considered racketeering and corrupt practices. I think that's what this is about. I think it's really to chill speech.
Yeah, I agree. I was about to say that myself. This is not about going after someone criminally, though I think that they have no problem doing it. It's to make people be afraid to speak up. Because if you do, you're going to pay a price.
Yep.
That's what this is. And again, that's why due process is so freaking important. No society should have the power to destroy another person's life, their livelihood, their reputation, everything that they have built over an accusation. That should never be allowed. Period. It doesn't matter if you're right, center, or left. It doesn't matter if you're a Christian, a Jew, a Muslim, or an atheist. It doesn't matter. It's second only to free speech because they are entwined.
Okay. Sorry, I was like looking at the chat.
You're good.
Sam Palmisano, thanks very much for the $50. You're helping us end the week really well. Much appreciated. Sam says, Robbie, let's play Mecha Chameleon. And I want to see Ted's artistic skills too. Ted, where can I go to see your political cartoons? You can go to rall.com, RALL.com, or you just follow my Twitter feed. I always put them on there. Just go to @TedRall. Would y'all do a long weekend stream for Q&A and gaming? Gartic phone would also be fun. Is it garlic or Gartic phone? Would be fun for Ted.
Gartic phone. I don't know what Gartic phone is, but no. One thing is that Sam, he did gift me Mecha Chameleon, so I will be playing that with him over on Steam. Just let me know when. I'd love to. And seriously, the support that y'all have been giving me with after getting the Dear John letter has been overwhelming, and I sincerely appreciate it. I know.
Speaking of which, let's do that call to action right now in the 2 minutes we have left, Robbie. So, Robbie, explain what we need you to, what we're asking people to do that costs you nothing.
Yeah. So, long story short, after John left the show, I kept working for him for. I made $1,000 a month, and I'm just doing just kind of like the social media and his production stuff. CAA, they told him, "No, sorry, you got to use our own people. You can't use this hick from Montana anymore." So to kind of just make up the loss in revenue, what we've been asking people to do, and people have been overwhelmingly supportive of it, is if over on Rumble or on YouTube, go to Putinbot Gaming, like the name of the Russian president, Putinbot Gaming, because I am the quintessential troll, and just pull up a playlist and let that puppy run. Or if you see me streaming, just hop on and say, "Hey," and I'll talk politics with you. I don't care.
Let's go to Rumble, look up Putinbot Gaming, find a long playlist, and you don't want your computer to go to sleep, so turn the thing on so it doesn't go to sleep, and and that's it. I do it. I've been doing it every single day. It's no skin off my ass. I have a million things open at any given time. Everybody who's at work and doing this and that, you can do it too. So much appreciated. If you remember, please do it over the weekend. And if you don't remember, please do it over the weekend. All right, everybody. Thanks so much for tuning in. TMI is coming up right now. Stay tuned. Rumble will rate it on YouTube. You're going to have to go find it. Same thing on DMZ America with Scott Stantis. We'll be talking about Pat Oliphant. That's in an hour. Stay tuned for all that. Robbie, thanks for sitting for Jamarl. Jamarl will be back on Monday at 9 a.m. Eastern Time. Bye, everyone, and ciao.
Ciao.